Hey guys, welcome to Dead Ahead, the YouTube channel where we will be discussing everything zombie, undead, and survival horror related. Today's topic is a very special topic. It's one of my favorites actually. We will be analyzing my favorite zombie trilogy created by the King of the Dead himself, George A. Romero. Um, so pretty much there are three films to that trilogy, three original films, and those are Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. So pretty much what we will be discussing about these three movies is, are they really true sequels? And what I mean by true sequels is, do they contain continuity between the three films? Do they connect in more than one way, more than just the theme of the film, which is zombies? So I think the first thing we have to do is to figure this out is define what the word sequel means, and that means, according to Google, to continue a story or develop the original theme of a story, which the Dead trilogy does do. It does contain a theme of survivors trying to these no ordinary people trying to survive this unordinary event, which is the zombie outbreak. Um, so, in a way, they are sequels. But how do the storylines connect? In what way, other than just it being these people trying to survive this zombie outbreak? Usually in sequels, we'll have characters that cross over from the original film into the next film. In one way or another. They don't have to be the main characters, but they do, you know, pop in the film most of the time. So, um, the three films take place in three different decades. Night of the Living Dead takes place in 1968. Dawn of the Dead takes place in 1978. Day of the Dead takes place during 1985. So, Night of the Living Dead, the first film, is the first time we ever see the zombie outbreak. And it's the setting for the film is a farmhouse in a very secluded area, a very small area in Pennsylvania. Um, at the beginning of the film, there's a lot of chaos. Nobody knows what's going on. But by the end of the film, when our last remaining character survives, it seems as if the authorities have the outbreak under control. Um, Due to the fact that they're at the end of the film, the police and the people who I believe were, I guess, were just deputized, are pretty much combing through areas for the undead and taking them out and piling them up and burning them. It seemed like they had this situation under control. So that's where our story starts. Then after that, 10 years later, we get Dawn of the Dead, which takes place in a pretty in actually a very different setting. Takes place in three different settings. It takes place in it starts in Philly in an urban area, then it moves to the country, and then and we end up in a mall, you know. And as I said before, Dawn of the Dead takes place 10 years later after Night of the Living Dead, 1978. So this is where I question whether or not it's a true sequel and whether the films have continuity between one another, because it's not so much the problem of the film taking place 10 years after. The problem is that we don't really see any original characters from Night of the Living Dead, but we also pretty much get like a whole new zombie outbreak, because in the beginning of the film, they're pretty much showing how civilization is falling after what, just a few days of this outbreak. So I've always been wondering, is this another outbreak that happened after the outbreak of 1968? Like, was that outbreak controlled and then started again, or is this a totally new outbreak, a new beginning to the trilogy? And if so, that would mean that Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead take place in different universes, or better said, Night of the Living Dead is one universe, and then Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead share like their own universe. Um, which is pretty cool, but it's pretty weird at the same time, given that it is a trilogy and people do consider these films to be sequels. So let's see. Yeah, so we have a different outbreak, and we have totally new characters. We don't recognize anybody from the original film. Fine, that's great. The film's great on its own, you know. When that film ends, you know, it's been like 6, 7 months after the outbreak started, and two of our survivors survive, and they fly away in the chopper. We don't know where they go. We don't know where they end up. You know, it's left to our total imagination. Now, we get Day of the Dead. It takes place in 1985, which is years after everything began. So, what I'm wondering is, since you know George Romero does leave hints in the film that a lot of time has passed since the outbreak began, I'm wondering, is this the same outbreak, or this the same is this the result of the outbreak that happened in 1978 in Dawn of the Dead? Because if so, you know, then Day of the Dead would be a true sequel to Dawn of the Dead, you know. And but then again, we don't see any original characters from the original film, which we don't need to for a sequel. But I always wondered, when when I was a child, when I first saw this trilogy, every time I would watch the next film, I wonder why they didn't put the characters from Dawn of the Dead. Like, why isn't Peter in Day of the Dead? You know, always wondered what happened to them. Why didn't they explain what happened to them? All these years went by, you know. And it's funny because the characters in Day of the Dead, even though these so many years have gone by since the outbreak, they're still searching for survivors in the beginning of the film. So when I saw that, like the first time I saw Day of the Dead, I was like, wow. I wonder if these old characters are gonna pop up. You know, even if they popped up as zombies, you know, that would have been satisfying enough for me, because then I would have figured out, hey, what happened to them, and then there would have been continuity between the films, and not and instead of us just getting the continuity of it still being a zombie outbreak that took over the whole world, you know. And pretty much in Day of the Dead, our survivors are still trying to pretty much find a cure for the zombie plague, or try to reverse engineer the zombies somehow so they could train them to work on their behalf. You know, it almost works out, but then it doesn't. And pretty much our survivors get away the same way our survivors in Dawn of the Dead got away, which is in the helicopter. They fly away to this I guess to this island, and that's where they spend the rest of their days, and that's where the movie ends. And we don't get anything after that. We don't get anything after that till um, 2004's Land of Dead, which is a totally different universe and a uh, totally different trilogy, I guess you could say, or saga, or zombie saga that Romero started. So you know, these are the things that always made me wonder about these films, how they're considered sequels or a trilogy even, you know. But that's just me. I always wondered about that. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think these are still considered true sequels to each other? Do you think these take place in three different universes or two different universes? Is it the same outbreak? Is it not? Why didn't we get the same? Like, why didn't we get to figure out what happened to the characters in the original film, the first two films, and the third film? Why didn't the characters cross over? Like, these are questions I always wondered about. So let me know what your questions are. Let me know what you think about this. And if you like the video, press the like button. You know, that'll be great. If you didn't like it, press the unlike button. You know, all opinions matter. I would love to hear them. And if you like, subscribe to the channel. We'll have more videos like this coming soon. And thanks for watching, guys.